right, we are now joined by our NASCAR Cup Series pole winner here at Texas Motor Speedway, Brad Keselowski, driver of the number 6 RFK Racing Ford. Brad, this is your first pole of the season and first in the number 6. Take us through your lap, if you will. I think you're on. Yes. You're on.
Technology here. I didn't hear words you said. Can you say that again?
Yes. Just that.
You got to make it all. You got to repeat exactly what you said the first time.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. Do you remember everything you said, or did you just make it up?
A little bit of both.
Yeah. That's good. You went unscripted. I think you asked him about my lap. Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it was a heck of a lap. Obviously, really proud to show the speed and to be staring on the front row on pole. Went through tough track to qualify because the speeds are so high. The track's really slick and hot, but we were able to put a lap together. 3 and 4 was one of those, just playing out, gutsy laps where you just hold it wide open through there and hope it sticks. And it was really, really close, and I made it through. So it was probably the difference maker. I haven't gone back and seen all the data, but I just committed to running through it wide open, and it made it. So it was good. Credit to Matt McCall, crew chief, and the team here, who worked on the car. We unloaded, a little bit with that warm-up session, and we were not bad, but we weren't good enough, and we made 2 good changes, and, here we are. So, we had a great test in Miami here this week and learned a lot and applied some of that here to what we have today and got some results from it. So, super exciting time for me and for our company here at RFK with a lot of the progress we've made over the last few months, and now it's actually starting to show up. It's been a painful journey, but a good one. So proud of our lap. It didn't come unearned, but got a long ways to go tomorrow for 500 miles here in Texas. Obviously a really tough, grueling race. Led a lot of laps here and been in position to win this race before and hasn't come together, so hopefully tomorrow will be the day. Certainly a great start to spot from.
Well, congratulations. We will open it up. 2 questions from the media. We'll start up front with Holly and work our way back.
Hi, Brad. Holly Kane with the NASCAR Wire Service. Just talk a little bit. This has been a good few days for you with the win last week and then coming right back this week and earning pole position. If you could just kind of talk about that.
Yeah, Holly, it's been a whirlwind, with winning at Bristol with Chris and running up front and having some good moments there, and then really busy with, like I said, testing in Miami and trying to get better as a whole. And those have been really healthy for us, but it's just a lot of things happening in all directions, personally and professionally with this business and my other business. So, and even with our foundation, everything's wide open in every direction, and so it's sometimes hard to stop and reflect on how privileged and blessed that I am to be in this position, but certainly a good time nonetheless.
All right, we'll take our next question from Jeff Gluck.
How'd you know it was going to stick?
I didn't. That's the reality. You don't. You commit to it, and either works or it doesn't. And I felt pretty confident that we'd made some really good gains in our cars in practice and in a test session. And you don't know. I mean, that's the reality. You really don't know what these cars are capable of until they spin out. And you start to build up a bank of knowledge that you think you can trust and lean on, and hope that it's right.
And then, of all places to win a pole, this track is really hard to pass at.
Yeah.
That is probably a good place to do it.
Yes.
But like you alluded to earlier, it's a really long race. How do you expect to manage that track position? And will you have to do anything different than maybe you would otherwise?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, if you go back and watch the All-Star race, I think Kyle Busch had the pole and really drove away for the first 25, 30 laps and until he blew a tire. I think probably the biggest challenge is running a fast pace, keeping the lead, and not blowing out tires. That's going to be the big challenge. And, last week at Bristol, I felt like I set a good pace and that we had done everything conservative, and, we ran a smart race until the end and got to the lead and started to push it and then blew out a tire. So it's that's probably going to be one of the toughest things for tomorrow, is that the leader is always going to be by nature the hardest on the tires. He's carrying the most speed through the corners. So, trying to balance not wanting to give up the lead and wanting to lead every lap in the dang race without blowing tires is going to be the biggest challenge, I think, not just for me, but for everyone that gets in that position tomorrow.
Let's go to Jerry.
Jerry Jordan, kickingthetires.net. A little bit along the lines of Holly's question, but, the win last week, the pole this week, is this a turning point organizationally for you guys? And how big is this arc?
Yeah.
What does it need to be?
Well, I'm living in my own bubble, so I'm not sure if it's fair for me to answer that question. I think that's probably a better question to be answered by those outside of my bubble. But it's certainly a lot of progress. In the media center last week at Bristol, I think I tried to articulate at least that you do things in this sport, and it takes 6 to 12 months for them to actually be realized. That's the reality. If you anything in this sport that you do that works, in 1 week's time or 2 weeks' time is probably illegal. So the majority of the things that come together take, months and months of behind-the-scenes work to come together. And so in that sense, it's super painful. It's really painful because you do things and you don't get a result. And everybody, challenges and questions the decisions that were made, and you kind of have to stay the course.
All right, we'll go to the back.
Caleb Vessel, SpeedwayDigest.com. Brad, the last poll that you've had was back in 2019. Just explain what it means to have scored this poll this year after a couple of years of drought.
Yeah, I just had that conversation with Claire B. Lang. I don't think that's a really fair statistic because we went a year and a half without qualifying. But I had a couple of polls with the old format with no qualifying, but with the actual qualifying format coming back in full effect this year, and you had to go back to 2019, and if you take out of the qualifying sessions we have since then, I think it's somewhere around 50 or 60, so it doesn't look quite as bad, at least to me. But that said, certainly been a little bit of a drought from being in that position to qualify up front, but glad to break through and to get it done.
Okay, we'll go to Rob.
Rob T. Youngson from the podiumfinish.net. Congratulations on the pole, Brad. I know it's been a lot of...
Rob.
Yeah, you got it. It's a two-part question for you. I mean, I know the fruits of labor to be a car owner and driver has to be quite a tricky proposition, as you mentioned. It's not overnight. So, I mean, how much have you tapped into your experiences as a driver to build the progress of RFK racing? And then secondly, when you wanted this race track 10 years ago, I mean, did you ever imagine how challenging this track would be years later?
Yeah, the track hasn't gotten any easier for sure, Rob. It's gotten tougher with when they reconfigured it here, I guess 4 or 5 years ago, and then now the PJ1 on the track makes it that much tougher. The next gen car has its own nuances to go with that. It's a tough track, no doubt about it, and it's got its own quirks to it, and some would say those are bad things, and some would say they're good things. I think you guys have probably heard all that all morning long. But it's the same for everybody at the end of the day, which is all I think you can truly ask for. From the driver and owner perspective, it's been one of those years where you kind of wear two hats and they both look at each other and say, not good enough, And, the driver's side says, make the cars better, car owner, and the car owner side says, get the finish you can get with the equipment you have. And that's all easier said than done on both sides. So, I probably fell victim to pushing too hard and not having the equipment we needed to have at the start of the year and not always getting the finishes we needed to get to just move on. The start of the year was very much we need to run 15th to 20th because we have 25th place cars, and that's what we have. And I probably fell victim to trying to get too much out of them and making our days worse than what they needed to be, but also pushing them in such a way that it was very clear where the boundaries of our cars and their performance were and what we needed to do to make them better. So, on the car owner side, I think our people are maturing, our processes are maturing. We've added some great resources in multiple areas, and there's just a lot of pieces coming together for sure.
Go to Justin, then up front to Bob.
Yeah, Justin Schuler kicking the tires. Brad, you've had a truck team before, so now that you've had almost a year now with the Cup Series as an owner, what have you learned? What have been the challenges? How would you compare? I know it's obviously different eras, obviously, but you've been at the owner level at two different places now. So what have been kind of the challenges? What have been the surprises, the joys?
Yeah, I would say the biggest challenge is that the truck team was a lot easier for me because I was the sole owner, and when something was wrong it was easier to be more nimble. Here there's more channels and stakeholders to work through, so it's definitely different. But at the end of the day, the same things still hold true. You put great people together with the right resources, and you let them do their thing. And I think I look at our company and some of the people we're building in, the leaders, and they're really taking hold of that. And then from ownership level, it's about giving them the resources to where they can, have the tools they need to be able to fight the competition. So that's really not any different. The numbers are bigger. You can add a zero to everything. There's an added zero to the revenue, and there's at least one added zero to the cost. So, I was at Martin Truex Jr.'s charity event here last week, and I bid on something on the auction and won it. And somebody was joking at me about how much it cost. I said, believe it or not, this is the cheapest thing I bought today. That really summarizes what being a car owner is like. You spend a lot of money on some stuff you never thought you'd spend a lot of money on, but it's what it takes to win.
Bob Pockers, Fox Sports. If someone to prepare for this race watched the All-Star race, were they wasting their time because of the difference in temperatures and the changes? Or gains
I
made?
think the race will be really similar to the All-Star race. I don't see it playing out much differently currently. I think All-Star race wasn't cold. It was still pretty warm. PJ1 was very similar. Different tire compound, but that remains to be seen of how that's going to affect the track and the race. Saw, I think, a handful of tire blowouts in the All-Star race, and that was a shorter race. So even with the different tire, I think that's probably the biggest question mark for me tomorrow is how hard can you drive the car without blowing a tire out? And I don't know if we have that answer until we run the race. Well, I guess it depends on, what side of the coin you're on. If you're a driver who's going to take that hit, it's not much fun. But, if you're a fan and you like to see a race get mixed up with variability, it can be fun. I kind of see all sides of that, but the races are really unpredictable.
Yeah, come right here in the middle.
Dominic Ottergoen with the racing experts in ESPN Radio Albuquerque. Besides the obvious things like winning the race and leading as many laps as you can tomorrow, what makes a successful race day for you?
Oh, successful race day for, there's two hats here. There's my driver hat and owner hat. A successful race for a driver is when you take whatever you have for equipment and you finish equal to or better than what it's capable of, If you've got a fifth-place car and you run third, that's usually a pretty successful day. And I think that's what you strive for, is to be able to work with your team and execute at that kind of level. On the ownership side, it's being able to provide everybody with the resources that they need to run well. And then you hope that they execute. But, so they're two opposing views that you hope come together.
All right. Okay, we'll come up front to Dustin.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. Brad, I understand that I don't think there's anybody in racing that is patient. And I also don't want to discount your win in the duel this year, but certainly in a season that has been celebrated with so many different winners, and as somebody like you that for so many years won multiple races and had such a nice streak going, how do you manage I guess the driver's side of it is that I'm sure you feel like you're a championship caliber driver, and in a season when everybody's winning, you haven't had that opportunity in a points race yet.
Yeah. So how do I manage that? Is that the question, Dustin?
How do you not beat your head against the wall?
Yeah,
Or
I wouldn't say I don't always do that. It's not fun to not be where you want to be, but what are you going to do? Sit and cry in your own milk or go to work? And I'd rather do the latter of the two. And we've been doing a lot of that. We've been putting the effort in and going to work. So, look at feeling sorry for yourself is easy. Anyone can do that. Being able to look bigger picture, being able to find things to remotivate you, that's hard. That's really my biggest challenge. The biggest challenge is not the people. It's just a big challenge. Don't get me wrong. It's not the resources. Not that that's not a challenge. It's having the ability to take a punch in the stomach and move on to the next week without letting it phase you. It's a little bit like the Muhammad Ali, rope-a-dope here, and now we're in a spot where we're ready to play some offense and we're on the field. So. It's a good feeling, and it comes with a pragmatic view, comes with a lot of humility. Being able to walk away from races where you were legitimately 20th, 25th, and go to work the next morning and say, all right, we're not going to burn the house down. We're going to, we're going to repaint the living room, and then we're going to go to the next room, and we're going to work on it piece by piece by piece. And the easy thing to do is to lose control of yourself. That's the easy thing to do. The hard thing to do is to work through it and be methodical in that approach.
Is that something that has become natural for you? Because obviously your path has had many challenges, many gut punches, or
Mm-hmm.
you've had to rely or do some different things this time because the gut punches are different, or maybe more in a row.
It's gotten easier for me with time. Having grown up in an environment where my family owned a race team and the hardships that went with that certainly built up a case for endurance. Having came to Team Penske where it wasn't where I wanted it to be, and living through a year and a half of pain and people telling me I made the dumbest move ever, leaving Hendrick, and then getting there, that built some confidence that, hey, this can happen. Having kids, and watching them grow and progress, and knowing that, hey, things take time, and we're maturing, and the fun comes from the pain in some ways. It comes from knowing that we can endure through it. No problem, Dustin.
Come up front.
Hi, Brad. Dawn Hall, Track Smack Radio. Seeing that you've been on both sides, and I hate that. I hate saying that, but you have been on both sides as a playoff driver and now a non-playoff driver, though. In the past, we have seen non-playoff drivers tend to hang back, not be as much, in the mix, let
Sure.
the playoff driver. I remember there was a time when it was let the playoff drivers drive and you stay out of it.
Yeah.
But now, seeing what we're seeing, and after this last 3 weeks, after you having your driver in there, now being on the pole, how exciting is it for you as a driver, though, to see that on any given weekend, and I know it's cliche, but seriously now, on any given weekend, it's anybody's race to take?
Yeah, there's more parity now in some ways than ever before. Now the fight is for who's going to get the test at a track. It's just, that's like you're looking for any advantage you can get. Now the fights are in different places. They're in pit road stuff. Not that we didn't fight on pit road before. They're in meetings where we're arguing over who gets the tire test at Texas or who gets it at Homestead or Atlanta. Like those things now are everything. So the parity is certainly a part of it. But then there's a lot of OEM fights. That's really big right now. Whoever gets the most resources from their OEM has a huge advantage. And so that stack of the deck is really important, I think, as we look to the future. So the game's changing. The game's changing, not just because of the next-gen car, but all the rules around it, whether it's the limited practice sessions or the single lug nuts, certainly part of it, or the way that the balance of power has really shifted to the OEMs here with a number of the rules. And so we're adapting in real time. I think that's some of the reason why you're seeing so much variance. I would add that there's other reasons for it too, the durability and things that are being worked through the first year of the car, the tires and everybody trying to understand those limits. But I expect that to some extent that parity to go away as time goes by and some of the variableness of the racing goes away.
All right, we'll take one final question up here in the front.
Hello, Brad. Raphael with Arconic. Congratulations on the pole.
I
With
hear you.
winning
Oh,
the
there you
pole,
are.
how you doing? With winning the pole today, your last 5 finishes here at Texas Motor Speedway have been top 10. So you got the pole today. What do you think it is that you've dialed into here at Texas Motor Speedway that others?
Yeah, I've had really good cars, no doubt. You can't do anything in this sport without good cars. I've had good cars here, which makes that a lot easier, and been able to execute, and not get into trouble. I would like to think that this track, 500 miles, it rewards somebody that races methodically but patiently, and that's been a strength for me. But I would mostly give credit to my teams and the work that they put in, and being able to work with them to work on a car, adjust the car dynamically through a race as the track changes. And as I look at this race, the track's going to change a lot. What you need to go fast at the beginning is probably not what it's going to take to go fast in the end. And that feedback from the driver is so important. I think that's something that I've worked really hard on. Thanks, Roger.
All right, Brad, congratulations and good luck tomorrow.
Take care. Thank you.